open, audio check, over. And I will bring my tripod next time. Over. And so we'll have two people be coming this way today. And if you should ever miss, like not be able to be here for class, this is a good way to still make it in. Yeah. All right, admit, and we'll come to do this. Next step. So you look at your required classes, that's the actual base knowledge that you'll need. This is one of the pillars for that. This is student. So you got several that are there. I'm gonna go over if you need to be at any point in time. And I'll try to look at the camera some too. So this is one of the pillars for the degree itself. Theory and methods across all criminal justice programs are about the most important ones. Yeah, I'm gonna be bouncing a little bit, and I'm trying to get to what I think if I here over here, I'm gonna get possession. People avoid those classes because they're hard. This is going to be a hard class. It won't be super hard. You have a textbook. Since I am recording this, I'm also going to post it up to my online graduate, so I have an idea. They can see me and hear me a little bit. Some too. I'll make more specific videos for you all though, on a different schedule. You all have a book. That's great. Not guys zooming in, but whenever I post stuff for graduates, I'm going to give them it too. They don't have a book this year. I gave them the primary source documents. Why? Because if you're reading a book, someone else has gone through there, consumed all of those readings, synthesized it, put it together for you to be able to easily digest this. Master didn't have that this year. They'll have to do that themselves because it'll be a new skill set. For you all, as you read about these things, if there's any theories that you particularly like, you want to learn more about, let me know, and I'll send you what I have. If I have it. If I don't, I'll see if I can. That kind of thing. Good things. This class and methods class are probably two of the most valuable classes that you will have in undergraduate capacity, graduate capacity, because what they do. A good phrase of flexible knowledge power. It is if you can weaponize knowledge. This is a field where all our knowledge is weaponized very easily. Give you an idea for the speed, in part for the graduates, also for you. The more difficult you make it yourself, the more strength you give yourself to some degree. There's a trade-off there, time. And it's always the biggest competition you will have. Where are you going to put it? That being said, there'll be times when make things difficult to strengthen. Some skills you will only get by doing difficult things. So if you're looking for difficult things to do, let me know. We've got projects and stuff. We get you on stuff that will be hard to do, and you will struggle. That is good. You should be struggling. If you don't struggle with it, you're not going to learn at the same degree. You're not going to learn. I wouldn't say it's well, because it's not just as well. There's more to it than just that, but we'll get into it again. I'll put it blank, very directly. I can give you one article that's 10 years old. What it will do is if you read it, you will turn around and you will read several books in probably about 20 years worth of research and realize, shit, none of these people knew anything about their history and stuff that's already done in this field. That's what it's, because that happens. Why? Everything we learn is relative. You learn from what you encounter and what you talk about to other people. I do the same. All of us do that, right? This class, methods is how. This is why. The two most important questions you will ever have. Why and how. Why did this happen? How did it happen? If I know why something took place, okay, that's control. If I know how it took place, now I can control, right? That's very, very, very important. Probably the biggest thing that you'll see in this class is, since this is heavily sociological in nature. Most of the elements are really similar. A lot of them are, but they'll do different things in different situations, and so things can get really wild. And that's why this is sometimes one of the more difficult classes, because I'm talking to you about, I'll use the same examples that I'm using for class. Fine. Collective efficacy, I said that term. Do any of you know what that term means, collective efficacy? You'll learn it, of course, this semester. To give you a single sentence that identifies it. It's an area's ability to come together, right? Neighborhood, can this neighborhood come together and you know, does it have a sense of identity, maybe? Is it an actual neighborhood? Can they actually affect change, maybe? And as you're dealing with theory, depending on whose theory you're dealing with to some degree, really what you're citing, whose ideas, better way of looking at it. Maybe you're talking about one of those things. Maybe you're talking about a different aspect of those things. Or maybe the way that it fits into this thing, it doesn't do any of that at all, right? To give you the idea of collective advocacy, if I said, you and first, I think with two big ones on that one. There's a conversation I've heard by proxy, like 5 years ago. Two people having a conversation about collective advocacy. Well, are we talking about admins or are we talking about persons? Right? What was that? That's just somebody's name. Now, the idea that they were espousing in this piece of work that they were writing, this one says collective advocacy is the ability to have the sense of collective identity. This one, not only do they have that identity, but they can actually take that and, you know, if there's a problem, watch as they come together to address that problem. Right? Who you cite identifies which idea you're running with, identifies which model you're using. First lessons on writing. I don't care anything about who someone is. I don't care anything about where it came from. There are no notable people. There are no influential people. There are no people at all. There are only kids. I think that's probably the biggest writing style thing that would be really influential for you in these classes and you decide going to graduate school. Ideas. You don't care about anything else. The thing is, when you're talking about ideas, none of it's real. It's like, how am I supposed to explain this object right here in front of me that is not real? I'm supposed to describe it to me. It takes me a whole lot of words, a whole lot of time. And that's why this is as difficult as it is. In terms of writing styles, the languages you need to speak in this discipline, there are at least 4 that I've seen so far. There's probably more than that because when you start getting specializations, each one of these things runs like some language. You'll have normal people. They'll talk about the same things we talk about, right? They just haven't been exposed to as much information. Good. We're talking. I mean, sometimes those things get hostile, so that's kind of dangerous to be ready for that. You have the legal, those who go into law school, those types of things. We're just being involved in legal processes. That's its own set of language. Right? Theory is its own language. Theory and methods, academia, you probably say academics has its own language. Probably the most fun I have with that is when we talk about racism. As I said, it's institutional or systemic. Depending on who I'm talking to, I'll tell one of 2 different jokes and get the same response. Right? It's like, are we talking about real racism here? Or are we talking about real racism? Like, am I talking about someone who's wearing a hood versus this? It's like 2 wildly different things for the same classes. Okay, these are race-based behaviors, I guess, something of that nature, right? If you aren't very clear with what exactly you're talking about, you'll use a term. I'll use a term. It's the same term, but it has 2 different meanings. Biggest thing is getting those ideas in the communities. It is not easy. So you have popular, legal, academic, social, media, that kind of thing. Everyone in popular society, everything that's going on the TV screen, where they get everything on the phone, right? That place. Easy. That one. Legal. Oh, practitioners, don't forget practitioners too. Each of the different fields will have its own language. They'll be very close to each other. And they won't necessarily talk the same way that you will, because the information they're exposed to, the cultures they're exposed to are different in all fields. So, a lot of languages to speak. That's why these classes are as important as they are. That's why writing and thought are going to be your biggest tools moving forward. As you write, as we go through this class, this one in particular is one where it won't be till you really start to write up papers and things like that on these theories that you'll see just how difficult it is to get the correct idea across. It won't be as bad in here as it will be in grad level. If they watch that on here, it won't be bad. It's not bad. Trust me, it's not bad. It will be hard though, and that's the whole point. Difficulty will make you stronger. With that, I think that's about all of the ranting I'm gonna do about that kind of stuff. Social media stuff. You guys are aware of anything happening social media side? If you have any questions, let me know. I'll say that. It's just something weird. So, but I'll just put it this way. If anyone ever questions the value of any educational experience they've ever had, what they're missing right there is that work I was just talking about. Either they didn't do it themselves or they weren't continuing to do it. But that's pretty good experiences. There's work involved. There's going to be a lot of work. That work is going to depend on how much you want to do, how far you want to go. Use a metaphor and Batman matches on the ship. Get ready to go. It's an airship though. So hold on. What the hell is crime?
New IRS.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say it's poverty, some people say it's their upbringing, some people say they don't know anything better. Intelligence level.
Intelligence.
People say, well, I have nothing to do, I don't know how to do a job, but I know how to steal. That's hilarious.
Not this one so much, but the knowledge one. That's my big one. Get knowledge out there. That's important.
I would say thrill as well. People get off on it.
Thrill. Okay. What else?
Mhm. Mental health.
Oh, well, I'm talking about work. There's another conversation I want to have with people a little bit after. One on laziness and efficiency, because they're the same thing. You do it right. You're really efficient, you get to be lazy. Like that's what try to be efficient. Breaks. It's like moving in not just this class, but any classes. A lot of this stuff can be self-started, right? Particularly like your online classes for those of you in online classes. You're not gonna have somebody who's telling you all the time. Those who workaholic is their drug of choice. Be careful with that. Take breaks. Take a break or you will have them. Keep that in mind. Mental aspect is a big part of crime. Intelligence, knowledge, there's more there. What else?
Well, and if people's social beliefs don't coincide with what the law is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
That happens, I think, marijuana. That's a big there.
oh my goodness, that's the one I'm really curious to see what it does in the next 20 years because there's been so much going on there. Let's see here, we got a couple in here. Let's see if either one of these works. Better. Leaves off itself.
So, but I mean, all of us tribal citizens with possession of marijuana, they might have their card, well, they're federally recognized, so it's not state recognized. So it's up to,
It's
it's up to the Attorney General's office to be like, ooh, do we charge them or do we not?
yes,
Huge part.
and then a lot of it's political too, he says.
Politics. Okay. It's interesting. Okay. Look on that one. That one. Mm, This one. This one. This one. This one. This one. There's some on this. I've not dug into that one very much. This one, probably right part. That one. You could probably pull on this one. Difference between causes and correlates. Right? Not a methods lesson, but yeah, kind of a methods lesson too. The way we study most of this stuff, and most of this is, you know, does poverty itself cause crime? Does some upbringing cause them to do anything? And then you have that whole thing called, free will. It's choice. Maybe not directly. Maybe there's a bunch of ancillary or preceding decisions that led to them, but there's always choices involved to have this right here. That's gonna be all that. There are plenty of people who come up in bad circumstances who do drugs. Of course, you have it's that's self-defined. That's this. Poverty, yeah. How many people commit crimes and what's the overlap between that and poverty? Massive. That'd be like me saying, where's the other? Poverty. Trauma. There we go. That's what it was. How much overlap is there between violent victims and violent offenders? And by that, I don't mean they're in the same areas. I mean, as in they're the same person. 80% of them. Yeah, methods, once you get about 80%, you're measuring the same thing. Right? So it's like, yeah, but is it a cause? Yeah. How many people have that kind of trouble? Yeah. And so it's like, there's something going on here that's causing it. These are ways we start to identify. We're really talking about correlates and not actually the driving factor. So what is it that drives it? And that's this class. And different approaches at different levels. And like you have those that are, I don't want to say pure criminal justice, like as in they started here kind of thing, or sociological. So our field starts as sociological. That being said, you can grab theories from anywhere if you can apply, right? I said something like fuzzy logic. Ever heard that phrase before? Fuzzy logic. Start talking about computing stuff, right? Computers, how it handles basically errors in the system. Errors. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah, you can use those same kinds of theories there for handling data and stuff here for maybe errors in the system. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. Grab theories from different areas. If I say gaming theory, it's like, yeah, you can do that the same thing, right? But yeah, so you got a lot of stuff going on. Okay. In terms of causes, it's like, yeah, there you go. One, we choose who we put power. Two, we choose, I should say, to a degree, they choose what laws are on the books. Now, there's a cause. There's a cause right there. That was quite direct. Okay. getting into actual causal things is not easy. Let's see what this wants me to tell you about in terms of theory today. All right, that's cheating. That. There's the class stuff. That's what I didn't open up that over there. You're gonna do that every time? This is set weird. That's gonna drive me nuts. Yeah, just open.
If it wasn't for laws, there wouldn't be any crime, right?
Correct.
If there wasn't a law, there wouldn't be a crime.
That is correct. Another way of looking at it is there's no action that's always been illegal. None. So first chapter's on reference. But they'll move pretty quickly into classical theories. Classical theories, what you're going to deal with there, the Enlightenment. That's some of the best times in history in terms of writing. Some of the most influential writings that have ever existed come from that area, talking like 16 to 1800s. People had time. You weren't surrounded by stuff like that. And if you don't have that to occupy your minds, guess what? Those who want to use their minds do and do amazing things. That can be you guys. So, yeah, get away from entertainment stuff.
You think that's why the sixties were good times?
I think that's why they have best music that the greatest was there. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. The drug stuff is one that's really, really interesting because I really have no idea what it will do. There's, all the people that get brought into the system for all the low level stuff, but at the same time, how many of those people would have been in the system anyways for higher level stuff? I don't know.
Like LSD, stuff. They say the enlightened mind. I don't know. I remember knowing that stuff. That's what they said.
Well, it's theory. Stoned ape. I said stoned ape theory. You guys have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Basically that our cognitive development of cortex, its development is tied into eating magical mushrooms that they're moving around all across not that good. It's changing minds. Crazy, but who the hell knows? No one's gonna be alive in that time frame to see that. I will tell you though, people on those kind of drugs, they are crazy. And so you will see a lot of crazy things. Okay. Talk about elements of the theory. My finger wet now though. Okay. Back over here. So. He talks about sub areas within criminology. Yes. Okay, in terms of criminologists, you'll find two types, generalists and specialists. Right? Generalists will throw most anything out. Specialists, what they'll do is they won't have the same knowledge base as a generalist, but they'll be able to go much, much greater detail. That. We'll hold off on that. Here it talks a little about crime statistics, crime measurements. Yeah, that's more methods. I'm not going to go heavy into that. Okay, here we go. Developing theories of crime causation. It gives you a few different types here from both sides: psychological, biological, and sociological. That's how they started in the well before criminology was really a field, criminal justice was a field. History. So let's start with history. Big ones you need to know about. Let's start with the maybe the biological ones. The biological ones are always fun. Okay. Did you guys read chapter 1 already?
Yeah. All right. You talk the biological?
Yeah. Biological theories in the day were crap. Today, we're starting to get to a point where they might come into play again. Originally, it was things like phrenology. I said, yeah, the bumps on the head. I'm going to feel your head. You're going to have bumps on it. And from that, I'm going to determine aspects of your personality. It's about as accurate as, studying astrology. Yeah. Not say astronomy. Yeah, that's what it was. Most of the biological stuff at that point in time is that. You'll have, Lombroso. I think he was one of the ones. Lombroso, I want to say his was meso, ecto, something types. He looked at body types. You know, you're built like standard average person, you're a mesotype, which means you're just a normal person. None of you really live in the crime. And that's essentially what they would do, right? You look at this guy over here and like, okay, this person's doesn't look like he's the smartest guy, but he's got a lot of muscles. Yeah, that's criminal. It's definitely a criminal, right? That's the kind of stuff that they do. They classify it like that. Not good.
So did they, how did, they didn't research this stuff, did they? They just threw it out there or what? I mean, did they
It was
use like scientific method for that? I doubt it.
It was about 400 years ago, so you're not really. It was just like they were doing everything. I mean, hell, yeah, or like you know, we're gonna remove your blood from you because it's what's making you sick. Yeah, you know, it's like you have to give it's knowledge. The way you look at knowledge is it is something that's very, very, very relativistic. If you want to understand what people are trying to convey, you have to kind of look back at the times and where people were betters and predators, don't like. Kind of bound yourself in the situations that they were. Sort of like, I'll give you a good. This one is when I was doing my dissertation. Fear of crime. At some point they'll talk about it in here. They'll talk about other classes too. Basically, what we did is we did about started in about 80 years ago, researching fear of crime in this field, because our field's not that old. It's not. Wow. Wow. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of words. Read them all, you read the top ones, you figure out how to read articles. That's something I'll teach you all to do, because that's something we'll work on that. Maybe you're done. You look at fear of crime, read it in your book, it will tell you. Fear of crime is so bad it costs X number of dollars. But what it really does is it changes how people act. That's what's really bad. There are two aspects of fear. There's the cognitive risk assessment associated with fear. Okay. How dangerous is it walking to my car out at night in the parking lot? That's the cognitive side. I see that out there. I know I'm gonna have to go out there after dark. I'm a little nervous about it. That's fear of crime. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is I'm walking out to my car at night. Right? And there's 6 people I don't know standing over there right next to my car waiting for me. That's a different one. That's the emotional one, right? But oh, my heart's in my throat. I'm going to vomit kind of thing. Right? 2 aspects. Took us 80, no, I'd say 60 years, because they were talking about that in the 90s. Right? It's about 30 years ago. Yeah, point in time. So you're talking about 50 to 60 years worth of research to settle on that. Go back to ancient Rome, ancient Greek. What was their conception of fear? The twin god. One's emotional, one's cognitive, one's dread. That's the cognitive. The I'm dreading going out. The other one's I'm going to flee from battle. That's phobia. It's phobos. Yeah, it's like we had that knowledge 4,000 years ago. You spent almost a century getting That's
Fight or
ridiculous.
flight.
Yeah.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. What you get with it though is you get everything, all the good ideas that being wrote on it had, which is very valuable. That's where you find the value. The fact that it's a twin aspect and you have the behavioral stuff, that's nothing new. We've been doing that for 100,000 years, right? We've known that specifically for 4,000 years. We just had the Dark Ages. Yeah, people stopped reading. Can't read books, get to work, that kind of thing. Okay, so I need to talk about how to read articles too. Biological, I'll get you a little bit more. Wolfgang Sutherland. I want to talk more about Sutherland, but I'm not that bad. He's more part of vengeance, white collar crime, but it's also like crime. From there, psychological at the time. I was also very early in its field. It's sociological. That's where you get to Durkheim. We'll spend some time talking about Durkheim too. When you read articles, how should you read an article? It's research. Question mark. It's always a good question, but sometimes they're not. Like even if you go in there and you say, I want academic articles, I want this, I need to have these topics, and do those types of things. It's like, still your first question is this research or crap? Next question. Peer reviewed. Doesn't mean it's crap or not, if it is peer, because it might be crap and be peer reviewed, or might not be crap and not be peer reviewed. It's just how much vetting time, how much time you need to spend figuring out whether you need to take the time to read this thing. That's time. Right? From there. Is it important? How would you know if it's important? This is a hard one. You have that relative nature again here. Probably the easiest way. You have to do some digging to find it, because I've not dug through all the different databases here. Some of those databases you search through will let you sort by citation. You sort by citation. You want the big numbers at the top and you want to go down. Fine. This one piece of literature was cited 10,000 times. Yes. Right? This one was cited 10 times. You're not. Depends on your area. That's a big one. And the other aspect that you need to keep in mind is this is for my evidence class. I have a whole lesson where it's all about, I never tell anybody this, but the whole point of the lesson is idea plus time. This idea dates back to 6,000 years ago, ancient Egypt. This legal concept dates back to Mesopotamia. This ideas in time. They take time to grow. Right? If you're looking at something brand new, this won't help. You'll have to stop and read it for what it is. It's really hard to do at this level because you've not had enough time reading to know what's good and what isn't. But once you guys start reading this stuff, though, I'll start giving you some concepts for this class. Okay. But some of you will get it with names. Some names are important. I don't want you looking at names though, in terms of you need to know for a fact that Sutherland's not only did he do white collar crime and differential association learning theory, he was also Sutherland. He is, if you look at our criminal justice organizations, a prominent figure in those, so much so that one of the organizations head positions actually named after the guy. Right? Yeah, he's nice and influential. There's a lot of people who are. I don't care who they are. You'll even know who they are. That's probably the biggest thing I want to see here is highly influential, the most important, or anything that's over the top in terms of writing. I won't have to do a lot of writing, but you'll have 4 writing assignments, and each of those will be a couple pages. So it gets where you know exactly what we're talking about when you say this theory or that kind of thing. The way it was told to me, my very first criminal justice class, I think it was master's level. So I'm giving you this little preview. It was a dark and stormy night in the field of criminal justice. That's a direct quote from who said. Because we're dealing with very, very sensitive, dangerous topics. There is always all of this stuff going on underneath that's very negative. We have to figure out how to move forward though, and I said it's really, really important. One thing. Things. You don't need to add anything into this. That's what I'm trying to say. There's writing, as in to get information across. It's kind of tells you about the 4 different languages you'll have to speak, but have to write to at different times. With the nature of these things, it's like we don't need to do much in the way of word craft. Most of the time, the most direct way of saying something is probably the way you want to go about it. As you do read some of the actual other you guys, you'll see that the way that they write is not like what textbooks writing. It's not always easy to read either. Sometimes you'll stop and read the same sentence twice because the way that they worded it, the back end of the sentence reframed the entire front of the sentence, right? Because they're just trying to get the information across as specifically as possible. That's probably the hardest part of this class, is to make sure that that information gets across as it's supposed to be. One of them. The other one's writing, good stuff, making sure it gets in. It's all about ideas and time. You give an idea time, it will propagate, and those who had that idea, they kind of do the same thing with their path in life. The greatest measure for success is society's well-being. That's lesson right here. What you'll see if you look at legal concepts, ideas in general, or just knowledge. If you want to look at history, dark age, all that kind of stuff. What you're seeing is this. If you have good ideas, they advance society. They do good things. Society gets better. Things get better. We stop transmitting these ideas, we stop thinking, or we let that system just run on its own, and guess what? Doesn't take much time. Things get bad.
Got overthrown and the
Well,
coughs and costume, they had the dark ages, everybody forgot about what ends in society.
oh yeah, and it's
I see that what you're talking about.
well, that part's hilarious. If you want to like really get into that, if you want to see close parallels between us and ancient Rome, it's like we're right now we're in a really pinnacle time. You guys really like in terms of 2 big lessons I'd want you to keep in mind for yourselves moving forward. Resilience, and that's a big one, being self-sufficient, and no, it's not just resilience though. Repositories for information. If the computer is turned off tomorrow, how much of this can you do? Right? You should be able to do everything you can do right now with the computer without. And it's really hard to do that.
I have to go to the library.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, all electricity went away tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Because what I'll say in terms of close parallels, the things that you should be particularly mindful of is barbarians. How are they called barbarians?
library.
Yeah, the sounds they make when they're talking. It sounds when so they had issues with their borders, the barbarians, and issues with reproduction. Same ones we're going through today. So it's like, yeah, we're in the same kind of place. So that's a time when you're getting your information and your lives in line. That's now, because it could get really bad. We didn't do current. Usually I start my classes with what's going on in the world for like the first 5 minutes as people are rolling into class. We didn't do that today because we were 2 classes behind. There is a lot of bad stuff going on. So yeah, I could show you. I'll just tell you, and then we'll move back into this. Probably the biggest one is if you look at Carrie Lake, the head of the GOP party there, said that
He was worrying about assassination before he bribed her to leave. It's like, you mean to tell me the person who's in charge of a whole political party and an entire state is worried about being assassinated and offering one of the people who's putting up, I guess, lawfare? Should he's trying to bribe that person to quit? It's like, that's a really bad sign.
But he said the reason he did it was because he was worried about her getting assassinated.
The recording's out there. You can hear the whole thing. He talks about being blown up in his car if she didn't leave. He's like, I'm gonna end up getting blown up. Well, he went, I'm gonna go out and start my car. And it's like, yeah, no, he's worried about being killed.
Mhm.
All right, so theories. These are the reasons why. Oh, that one there. There we go. Can't quite see because of this camera. There we go. Like this. Okay, here's where we get into it. Classical criminology.
Back to reading. If you wanted, you can have a PDF. It is annotated, most of my. If I scan it, start out as PDF, certainly, but otherwise not. Wrote stuff. Sometimes other people write stuff too. I don't know, doesn't just have no. Him. His book is On Crimes and Punishment. Dates back to the 1700s. If you read it, it will parallel this country in terms of the things that he proposes. What he does is it's a treatise on punishment, on torture. The title is On Crimes and Punishment. It's a couple hundred pages, basically condemning the use of all the forms of torture that they're doing. And he puts forward as an argument that here's how the system should run. Here's how you should go to condemn people if you're going to. Here's, ideally trial by jury, things like that. The underlying thing throughout that book, and he talks about the very beginning, is utilitarianism. That's the underlying philosophy, drawing classical theory is utilitarianism. If I said utilitarianism, can you tell me what that is?
The greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people.
Yes. That is exactly it. I just realized I can't see you all if I had that up. Oh well. That's it exactly. It's calculation, right? We're trying to maximize what's good, minimize what's bad. Not a hard concept, hard to do in practice. And what will saying such things or making good things do to those who are putting them forward? That's a helpful question. Ooh, this one came up earlier. I talked a little bit. Religion. Anybody here religious? What happened to that guy? I mean, this area is heavily Christian, if I remember correctly. There's that person is the main character of that story. What did they do to him? He doesn't get crucified. Yeah. His wasn't that bad. His was no, you have to flee your home and you have to hide. Right? He himself was a title holder. He did Duke. Can't remember what his exact title was. I know that after he published it, he had to flee his home country and go hide out with another dude that was a friend of his. Right? Because if you're going to come out at a time like this and say that you shouldn't be just errantly killing people and torturing them at your own free will, everyone who's got that power is not going to be happy. And guess what they're going to use? Those powers. Right? If you actually read the book, it's fun at the beginning of it, where it talks about the very ERRI. A heavy argument that read it, what it's them. Right? They did it. They don't have anywhere to flee to. What? No, they're just dead. So no credit, but hey, world's a little bit better. Right? The idea behind utilitarianism is the one that drives this entire system. I could probably talk at least for the next couple hours on that. But I don't know exactly where I would draw the line between talking about that system and then talking about what we'll have at the end. And that's when we start talking about socialism and those types of things. Because nothing's clean. When I say it's like you can't just say, this is a good theory, this is a bad theory, those kinds of things. None of that works out. Where it works like this. In this specific situation, this theory may or may not work, right? To give you a better understanding, that's like If I said, pure, what's the pure capital? I think versus crony capitalism versus, it's pure communism. It's like, what's the difference there? Not really, right? You're talking about very few number of people, whether they're in government or corporations, that control everything. And that's not good. That's you want to talk about in terms of systems, it's sort of, yeah, you need to have the ability to let things be distributed disproportionately, because not everybody does the same things, and some people do have more value than others. But at the same time, you make sure that other people are taking care of their own starves to death. Like, we can do both, but you're using both sides of that. You're seeing one theory for one and the other, you gotta get them to work together. And they don't want to do that. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing with this one. Is this one will identify why our system does work as well as it does. It will also point out the fact that it's about the errors. With each one of these things, you get you're trying to address one error, you're gonna get the inverse of that at your new problem. We're gonna keep that. I think this is a social problem we're having right in society. This is why this field is so much fun. As you're reading in these theories, if you delve into the research side of it, because you get to see the application there, what you'll find is some really cool stuff where unanticipated consequences of actions. There are always those. What was the class? Same. You have a big system like this, the system that we have, criminal justice system. Its purpose is to what? Okay, well, we'll work on that. We have a criminal justice system. In theory, it has a purpose. We'll figure out what that is. Okay. We're gonna have a problem, and it's going to be two examples right now. Let's go with criminal justice. I've got a neighborhood that's got a crime problem. I can send more police officers, but they'll take care of it, right? They'll take care of the crime problem, right? What other problem do you have then? You know, social problem, right? You just had a crackdown on an area that you may not want to be there in the first place. Different problem. That'd be like, there's so many of those.
Like I'm saying, like legalizing drugs.
Yeah.
Causes a problem with
Yeah.
dealing with all the drug addicts and
Yeah.
instead of putting them in prison.
Well, that's gonna be our next.
Treatment, what do you do? It's kind of like a cause of another problem.
Yeah, well, that's the big one we're figuring out right now. If we talk about where technology has go. If you look at the areas where marijuana is legal versus the areas where it isn't, you won't see a whole lot of difference just yet. You have to give that more time. Look at the areas where they legalize multiple drugs, and what you'll see very quickly there is everything about that area has started to degrade. You start talking about physical characteristics, that's its own realm of theories, how the physical environment influences. It's like that. Dozen theories just on that alone. So, but we'll stop for there. We'll talk more about this next time, and I'll start bringing some more Becker with you. And from there, we'll talk Durkheim, and then we'll get into actual theories. We'll get outside of the history stuff. With that, you guys feel like you learned some stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, well, I will catch you on Monday. With that, have a great day.
Right, you gotta think a lot for this spot.
This two that are the hardest.
Yeah.
Because it's, and if you see me doing it, feels like I'm pulling stuff out of thin air. And sometimes it can be like that for people,
Yeah.
but it's just, you just have to stop and think about every little thing.
It's just trying to figure out like what do criminologists do and crime and what causes it, you know, people don't think about what caused it, stuff. Those all add to it, you know, all the problems with, you know, mental illness and all that stuff.